Has rejoined us, and of course, all of you would love doing business with Sergio, right? There's a lot of business to do. But what I want you to focus on is, Sergio, what are really the needs that you have unmet at this point in developing your deep water fields? And the reason I'm asking this is because, you were very confident when you gave your speech and you said, we have the technology. What we need is incremental technology. So what sort of incremental technology do you need, and how do you see these people potentially providing solutions, or what sort of solutions would you want them to come up with?
Well, on the pre-salt, I think that we have several different areas that we can improve technologies. On the surface, for example, we need to have a better floating systems for the production of FPSOs. The new technology, new generation, sixth generation of drilling rigs that are automated and remotely controlled is also very important. On the subsea, we have to reduce weight and certify for 2,000 meters of water depth of the flow lines and risers, flexible risers. We need to develop a little bit more some special types of control for the BOPs and for the wellhead, the systems in the wellhead. We have already developed a lot of tools for drilling and drilling bits. We need some better cementing properties, and we are going to have a lot of new logistics. We have to develop new hubs for logistics and new futuristic ideas how to use the joysticks.
How to use it? But one of the things you mentioned in your opening remarks was that it's very clear, you have this massive budget, $225 billion for your CapEx. 95% is going to be spent in Brazil. 65%, as I recall, is going to be produced locally. For Petrobras, this is not just about drilling oil. This is strategic for the country because you have a state-owned the government's a big part of Petrobras, but you have to balance, you have to create employment off this. So how do you see getting the balance right between that and making sure that these people give you what you need?
I think in the long run is the same type of objective for the long run investors, private investors, and the government that owns 49% of the company, 56% of the voting rights. The idea is that if we need really to add capacity worldwide, the additional capacity, if it is in Brazil, it's going to be better in the procurement that we have. Then we can have a better control of what's going to happen. We have a better supervision. We have a more adjusted standardization procedures in the detailing of the projects that we have. And then it's good for everybody. We can create jobs, but also we can have a better company results.
Pete, from somebody in the offshore industry, your observations, what Sergio is saying, both on the technology front and what he just said now, and how you position yourselves.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's great that we're in Norway because I think the poster child for the way to develop the oil field is Norway. When you look at the discoveries that were made in the late 60s in the North Sea, and you look at the industry that Norway has developed because of that, I think Brazil wants to do the exact same thing. And I think those of us that are in the industry are foursquare behind that. And we're investing and we're putting facilities in Brazil, just like my company has invested very heavily in Norway. We think this is the model that Brazil really is looking at.
Yeah, Lars, yeah.
I think seen from our side as vessel operators, we see the greatest challenge by operating in Brazil going forward is going to be access to competent Brazilian crew members. And you were mentioning it during your speech that there are discussions ongoing between Norway and Brazil of how we can do it, at least in a period between now and when the capacity to educate new officers are in place. So I think we have to find a solution where we can use more international crew, at least for a period.
Absolutely, because how are you going to have that competency?
Oh, yes, we are not going to use anything as Jones Act to Brazil. No. Okay, nothing like that. But we have to protect our crews, and we have to train our crews. Okay. And I know that we need a lot of new vessels, and we need a lot of crews, people to manage those vessels, and we have to train. Have to train in Brazil and to train outside of Brazil. To train the trainers outside of Brazil probably is the best thing to do, and try to multiply the training into Brazil. That's, I think, the best thing that we have to do.
So potential outsourcing sector for you. Jan, Erik, you wanted to add something here or say something, Sergio?
Having grown up in this country and seen what local content has meant and ended up with in terms of industry and oil companies and service, it's only natural that a company like Brazil with those resources would like to achieve a similar thing. But it's also in many parts of that industry what makes sense. I mean, in our industry, geology is a local knowledge. I mean, it doesn't make sense for us to sit here and try to understand the geology of Brazil when they have expertise locally. So we have put our processing center of our data in Rio, and we have the second largest after Gabriele in Latin America. And that's where we do all this stuff, because it doesn't make sense to move it out of Brazil.
You want to make a point, and you want to make a point, and then I'll jump in. Yeah.
I just said that we have worked with the local content for more than 10 years now in Brazil, and we have grown from 300 to 1,500 employees, and now we are training the trainers. So I think that is the way forward there. It's in Brazil.
Yeah. Jan.
Two things. One, it makes pure commercial business sense to have large organizations locally in Brazil. So, as an international operator, that's our objective as well. So that's the first. The second is, when you look at what Petrobras is doing, I think we also in Norway have a lot to learn from Petrobras. And I think we have a very close cooperation where actually this is a two-way flow.
Yeah. There is some worry, and in some of the reading I was doing among some analysts, as you move forward in the future and develop these new fields, that you will be overstretched because you are going to be, the primary operator. How do you respond to those criticisms? And is that the case? And why not bring in more of this outside expertise?
We are going to bring more of outside expertise. We are going to have 30% mandatory. 70% is open to the others, which means that we can have combinations. We are going to be the operators, but we have also a long experience with Statoil and other oil companies worldwide that we can cooperate and we work together with them. There's no big problem for us to work with big companies.
What about being overstretched?
I'm going to talk about that. The overstretch is going to depend very much on the speed of the development of the new areas, I think. Yeah. Because right now what we have is that we have a very big program, as I said. We are going to have in 4 or 5 years 30 billion barrels of proven reserves to develop. That is a very big resource base. And this is only based on what the concessions that we have already. The new areas are going to come. If the Brazilian government puts a very fast growth perspective, then it's going to be overstretch on us. If it's not, we can plan, I think, over time, and try to attract more people to work with us.
Henrik has, again, somebody who sort of can be objective about this. You do sell services, but in a different way. What is your biggest concern in terms, from an offshore perspective, in terms of what Brazil is going to do?
I think in terms of technology, as Mr. Gabriel said, you need incremental changes. We are particularly interested in to look at also the export solutions. Which export solutions do we want for oil? Maybe it's simple, but for gas, that will be interesting because that is necessary to do the production. Otherwise, the training of the people, to get the skilled people is probably is what will determine the timeline of the development.
Pete?
Yeah, I agreed wholeheartedly. I mean, I think all of us are investing heavily in Brazil, and I think we are bought into the concept, but I think the training of people and the getting of people. I mean, inflation's a significant problem, and turnover, when you hire people, the turnover becomes an issue too. So I think those things are going to be challenges, but we'll meet the challenges.
Okay. You talked about challenges. We're just about out of time here. I want you each to name the biggest single challenge that you think will face your industry over the next 5 to 10 years. Pete?
I think it's people. It's going to be getting the proper people trained and getting them in place to do the things necessary.
And Art?
Subscribe to that.
Subscribe to that.
Yes.
Subscribe to that.
Same, yeah.
Subscribe to that. Subscribe to that. Yes. Subscribe to that. Hey, we finally got something unanimous. Let's have a big round of applause for all our panelists. Terrific. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, great. Thank you. Please.